Hey there, ever notice how we humans react so fast? Sometimes without even thinking and for no reasons? Just scroll through social media and boom, outrage, opinions, chaos. But guess what? LLMs are now learning how to think before act, to reason first and then act. Speaking of reasoning, DeepSeek even introduced think tokens. And that's exactly what we are diving in today. Jimmy and Jane are here to break down ReAct, Synergizing Reasoning and Acting in LLMs. So let's get started.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're going to be looking at something pretty cool today in the world of AI, this new approach called ReAct. And it's all about getting AI to think and act more like how we do. I'm Jimmy.
And I'm Jane.
And Jane, you've been looking at this research. So what makes you so excited about ReAct?
Well, you know how AI is good at things like writing poems and generating images?
Right.
Well, this is different. ReAct is all about getting AI to solve problems more like a person would.
Okay, so how is that different from how AI usually works?
Well, traditional AI models, they kind of get stuck in their own heads. You know, they can follow logical steps,
Right.
but they don't always know when they need to get more information. ReAct changes that.
Okay.
It allows AI to take actions in addition to thinking things through.
So it's kind of like the difference between thinking about making a sandwich and actually like going to the fridge to get the ingredients right.
Yeah, exactly. ReAct can reason about a problem and then take action to get more information, like searching a database or interacting with a website.
Okay, so that's kind of abstract. Can you give me a real-world example? Like, how does this actually work in practice?
Sure. So one of the things they looked at was this thing called Hot Pot QA.
Hot Pot QA.
It's this question answering challenge
Uh-huh.
where the AI needs to find answers by looking at multiple documents. So it's kind of like if you were trying to answer a trivia question.
Right.
And you had to put together clues from all these different places.
Okay, so it's not just about like knowing the answer already, it's like knowing how to find the answer.
Yeah, exactly. So like in one example, they asked ReAct this question about the elevation of the high plains.
Good.
And to answer it, the AI had to first figure out where the high plains are, geographically.
Yeah.
And then it actually searched Wikipedia for information about the Ozark Plateau.
Wait, it went on Wikipedia.
It did.
But how did it know what to search for?
Well, that's the interesting part. The way they prompt ReAct is surprisingly simple. So human annotators, they basically just think out loud as they're doing a task. And they write down their thoughts and actions.
Okay.
And this kind of shows the AI, like how to approach the problem, step by step.
So they're almost like teaching the AI how to think like a person would.
Exactly. And the results were really cool. ReAct did better than the models that could only reason or only take action. It's like the combination of both that makes it so effective.
Makes sense. You need to be able to kind of think strategically, but also know how to get the information right.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see why you're excited about this. What makes ReAct so unique, though? Like, haven't researchers been trying to get AI to interact with the real world for a while now?
They have, but ReAct does it differently. So instead of just training on tons and tons of labeled data, ReAct uses this thinking aloud prompting method.
Okay.
And that lets it learn from just a few examples.
Wow, that's a lot more efficient.
It is. And that has some pretty big implications, for how we develop AI in the future.
Okay, so we talked about, like, question answering, but what about other tasks? Where else does this ReAct really shine?
Yeah. Well, they tried ReAct on a lot of different stuff, and it seemed to work pretty well across the board. But one place where it was really interesting was fact verification.
Fact verification.
Yeah.
That's like AI is checking facts on the internet.
Exactly. And this is where ReAct's ability to not just find information, but also think critically about it really comes in. So they use this data set called PHV. It has a bunch of claims that the AI needs to either support or refute or label as not enough information, kind of like a fact checker. And they gave ReAct access to Wikipedia again.
So it's like searching for a source, but it also has to figure out if that source actually supports what's being claimed.
Yeah. And what was really interesting is that ReAct consistently did better than the models that could only search for information without a plan. It wasn't just randomly browsing Wikipedia.
Right, because it was using its reasoning to target its searches.
Exactly. It's kind of like if you're trying to fact check something, you don't just start reading random articles.
Right. You use what you know about the topic to find the good stuff.
Exactly. And get this, It even did better than the models that could only reason,
Really?
because it could actually go out and find evidence to support or refute its own thoughts. It was like a built-in, like, BS detector.
That's crazy. So it's not just thinking about the problem, it's like actively looking for proof.
Yep. Sometimes it even found information that was more up-to-date than what was in the data sets.
Whoa. So it was actually correcting the data itself.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
That's both really impressive and kind of scary.
Yeah, it does raise some interesting questions about how much we can trust AI. But it also shows how dynamic this approach is. Now, ReAct wasn't just stuck doing researchy tasks either. They also tested it on stuff like decision-making in, like, virtual environments.
Okay, so like AI playing video games.
Well, sort of. They used a text-based virtual world that's like a house. It has rooms and objects and things the AI needs to figure out.
Okay, so the AI has to, like, navigate this virtual house and do stuff like make a sandwich or clean up.
Exactly. And ReAct did amazingly well, even when it only had a few examples to learn from.
It's a fast learner. That's good.
Yeah. In fact, in one of the tests, ReAct was able to reach the same level of performance as the systems that were trained on thousands of examples. And ReAct only needed one.
Wow, just one. What was the secret sauce?
It's the way it combines internal reasoning, with the feedback it gets from its environment, so it can think through the steps like find the bread, then the knife, then make the sandwich.
Yeah.
But it's also taking in new information from its surroundings and adjusting its plan.
Okay, so it's not just following instructions blindly.
Yeah.
It's actually learning as it goes. That's pretty cool.
It is, and that makes it more adaptable. They even found that they could correct ReAct's behavior just by editing its thoughts.
Wow, so no need to like reprogram the whole thing.
Yeah, you can just tweak its thinking.
That's wild. Okay, so we've seen ReAct do trivia, fact-checking, and even virtual chores. What about the real world? Like, how does all of this actually affect our lives?
That's the big question, right? Well, to test that, they also tried ReAct on this thing called Web Shop.
Web Shop.
It's like navigating a fake online store.
Okay, so instead of searching Wikipedia, it's browsing for deals on Amazon.
Pretty much. So the AI has to understand what the user wants, like a blue sweater under $50.
Right.
And then it has to figure out how to find that specific product.
It has to search keywords, filter by price, maybe read reviews. It's like a personal shopping bot.
Exactly. And it has to use both reasoning and acting, just like a human shopper. And guess what? ReAct did better than all the other models.
Okay, so are we all going to have ReAct bots doing our shopping soon?
Well, maybe not just yet. But what ReAct shows us is that AI can do more than just simple stuff. It can start to handle these complex real-world problems, and in a way that we can understand. We can see how it's thinking.
That's a really good point. It's not just about making AI that's powerful. It's about making AI that we can actually trust.
Exactly. And that's going to be super important as we use AI more and more in our lives. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. ReAct is a huge step forward. But it's not perfect. What are some of the things it still struggles with? What are its limitations?
Yeah, that's a good point. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, one thing the researchers pointed out is that ReAct still needs a lot of data to learn effectively. It does much better with limited examples.
Right.
But creating those examples can still be a lot of work.
Yeah, someone has to sit there and think out loud for the AI.
Right. And that's a tedious job. So figuring out better ways to train these models is a big challenge. Another thing is making sure that what ReAct does aligns with human values. Right now it's mostly working in these controlled environments. Wikipedia, a fake shopping site.
Right.
But as these models get more powerful and start interacting with the real world, we need to make sure they're acting ethically.
Yeah, that's a really important point. We could get so caught up in all the cool stuff that we forget about the ethics.
Absolutely. And that's why research like this is so important. It's not just about, pushing the limits of what's possible, but also about having these conversations about the impact.
Well said. So what does all this mean for the average person? Should we be excited about ReAct or worried?
I think there's a lot to be excited about. ReAct shows us that AI can be more than just a tool. It could be like a partner, helping us solve tough problems.
I like that. It's not AI replacing humans. It's humans and AI working together.
Yeah, exactly. But of course we need to be careful, right? Like any powerful technology, there's risk.
So what are the risks and what can we do about them?
I think one of the biggest risks with something like ReAct is unintended consequences. As these models get smarter and start doing things in the real world, it's possible they could make decisions that we didn't see coming or that even go against what we want.
So even if we give the AI good intentions, it could misunderstand us or make a choice that seems logical to it but turns out bad.
Exactly. Like imagine an AI that's supposed to make traffic flow better in a city. It might decide that the best way to do that is to keep certain cars out of certain areas.
Right, right.
But that could have unintended consequences for those communities.
It's like that classic sci-fi idea where the AI is so focused on efficiency, it forgets about people.
Yeah.
How do we prevent that?
That's the million-dollar question, and honestly, there's no easy answer. But one thing we need to do is make sure these models are designed with strong ethical guidelines.
So we need to teach AI right from wrong.
It's more complicated than that. It's not just about rules, it's about making sure the AI understands human values and how to think about those values in different situations.
That sounds really hard. How do we even start?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's an area where people are doing a lot of research. Some are trying to train AI on huge data sets of human behavior, hoping that AI can learn our values by watching us.
Interesting. So it's like learning by example, but on a huge scale. What else?
Others are trying to involve ethicists and social scientists, from the very beginning, to make sure the AI is designed with our values in mind.
So like building a conscience into the AI? It sounds like there's a lot of work to do, but at least people are thinking about it.
They are, and I think the key here is to be humble. We need to remember that AI is powerful, but it can make mistakes.
Yeah.
And we all need to work together to make sure it's used for good.
That's a great point. So for our listeners, what's the one thing you'd want them to take away from this?
I think the big takeaway is that we're entering a new era of AI where it can do more than just basic stuff. It's starting to show human-like abilities. And that's exciting, but it also means we have to be careful.
Right. We have to make sure we use this technology ethically.
Exactly. The future isn't something that just happens to us. We make it.
Well said. That's a wrap on our ReAct Deep Dive. We hope you learned something new and maybe even had some mind-blowing moments.
If you want to go deeper, check out the links in our show notes. There's a lot more to explore.
And keep those brains buzzing because there's always more to learn.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on the Deep Dive.